class in which there's so much gratitude that we can soak it in and allow it to find some permanence inside us. I think it's very important because that's the first step towards spiritual enlightenment, which is living here as a happy person. You know, happy people are enlightened people. And all we have to do is keep our hearts open and just find that gratitude and that love inside us. And so please, we'll have a meditation. And then afterwards, if anyone has a question, I'll be happy to try and answer it. And let this be a gratitude, just love. I mean, they say God is love, and it's so true. You know, it's really the truth. You know, why do we separate ourselves from that? It creates so much anxiety and entanglements in ourselves. It's silly, you know, when the other thing is so rich and delicious. And it just literally opens the door to working out karma, being free of the earth, and becoming an enlightened person. So please, let's have a meditation. And then after, you know, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them. Yeah, I can hardly talk. I've unmuted everyone. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask?
Yes, Stuart. I know you've spoken about this before, but could you please expound upon this quote that came of Rudi's? It says, he said supposedly, your spiritual life is no different than what exists.
No, I can't make out what you're talking about.
Okay, let me say it clearer then. This was a quote from Rudi. Your spiritual life is no different than what exists in the ordinary world. A lot of times your answers have to be there.
Everybody try and sit still. Now go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, the quote was, your spiritual life is no different than what exists in the ordinary world. A lot of times your answers have to be there. Could you please talk about that?
Well, I practically talk of it in every class, you know. We live in the world. Life is the teacher. I am not the guru. Life is the guru. You understand? And we have to get strong enough inside to listen to life and let ourselves learn from life what we need to do in the ordinary world, in our day-to-day living, what we need to do to grow and get closer to God. I mean, my job is not to be a guru. I mean, God knows I tried that once and it was pretty terrible. You know, my job is to really transmit Shakti so all of you can get strong enough to do exactly what Rudi talked about, is to allow the ordinary world to become something miraculous, a jewel. It's your life, it's one's life. And it has to be a jewel. And it has to be the guru, the teacher that guides you on the path to God. That's why we come here, is to learn this. So, you know, I mean, Rudi is using different words, but I talk about this all the time, you know, because it's a key to any kind of inner evolvement. And there's so many different, I mean, life is like a great university. It has so many departments that we can learn from, you know, and we all become specialists. You know? It's ridiculous. We hide out in our little specialty, whatever it is, and keep ourselves from really embracing the totality of life. It's like Rudi said, he wanted to eat from every smorgasbord. He wanted to eat from every dish on the table. And that's really what the quote is about, and it's what I talk about all the time. We're not born on the earth, you know, to live in cubby holes, to hide out from this vast university with many different departments that has an enormous amount to teach us about what we have to do to grow, what we have to do to work out karma, and what we have to do to become happy human beings. So what you quoted is wonderful. And I mean, I talk, as I say, it's something that I've learned in my own life, and it's become a very important part of my life. And my job is to give that away. It's to help anyone who comes to these classes to learn how to do this, because you need a strong chakra system. You need a strong inner life. You need Shakti, you need energy, you need nourishment. I mean, when I first met Rudi, I would go to his class, and one of the things he talked about is how we live, you know, we have a pandemic now, you know, this COVID-19 thing. But he was talking, when I first met him, he used to talk about the world is a pandemic of spiritual malnourishment. And that's why it's so messed up and people are so crazy. So I think that this is really one of the keys to, you know, learning what we're doing here. It's one of the reasons I have so many classes, you know, and I get a little impatient with people that don't take advantage of them, you know, people that want to show up once a month and get a taste of it and, you know, think that that's what they need for a spiritual, and it's just nonsense, you know. I need training, you need training, we all need training just to do exactly what, you know, Tony quoted from Rudi's book, to turn life into a living miracle. You know, to stop specializing in our own little cubbyhole of where we think we're safe, you know? Nobody's safe in life, really. Nobody's safe. I always thought the safest person in life was Rudi. I'm going to live, he told me I'm going to live to 84. I go, you know, he went on and on. And 45 years old, we hit a mountain in an airplane. What's safe in life? You don't know what's going to happen in 10 minutes. Who knew, ever knew, you know, a year ago, we'd be living through a pandemic. You could barely go out of your house, you know? I went out of the house today wearing 2 masks. People would tell me, you got to wear 2 masks, you know? And it's not that I'm frightened, it's just that, you know, that you don't know what's going to happen in 10 minutes. So one really needs to get what the universe provides and use it to build a system inside that is strong enough to transform whatever takes place in this world into a living miracle. A teacher, a guru. So don't look at me as if I'm the guru. All I'm here, I told you, I'm a gas station attendant, you know? And what I transmit is Shakti. Automobiles need gasoline, human beings need Shakti. You know, they need energy in order to grow, in order to simply get through the day, you know? So what Rudi, you know, spoke about is essential because it gets down to basics. Gets down to the very reason we're born on the earth is to learn how to transform this kind of absurdist planet that we live on into a living miracle, into something extraordinary. And it only becomes extraordinary because we become extraordinary in ourselves. We are connected with God. And when you're connected with God and spirit, then life around you becomes a miracle. And you can put up with anything, all the bullshit, all the nonsense, all the politics, all the, you know, economics, you can put up with anything. You have the strength to deal with whatever it is. And it's, you know, it's not complicated, you know, it's simply doing it, getting past oneself, as I say all the time, is the key to this. And stop living in one of the departments in the university that represents a kind of safety, a safety net. You know, there's no safety in this world. The only safety is being centered in the hara, opening the heart, receiving spiritual energy, you know, opening, you know, and living with a strong inner life, a chakra system that enables one to be connected with God and to work out your karma, becoming a happy person, and ultimately through the Kundalini force, becoming enlightened. That's the only safety net. The rest of it is, there's no safety in this world. You can build, all the white picket fences you want and all the suburban houses and all of that nonsense that they promote for say, and there's no safety. You're connected to spirit, there's safety. Because you're connected to what's infinite in the universe, and you're not relying upon illusion to determine your life. And everything in life teaches us this. We have to listen and learn from it. And it's all a dream, it's an illusion, it's Maya, And what's real is, and then everything around us becomes real. And you know why? It becomes the guru, it becomes the teacher. So instead of battling with it, you embrace it. The living miracle of what each and every human being's life is. I didn't expect to talk about it. Does anyone have a question? Anyone else have a question they would like to? I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question they would like to?
I saw your beautiful gold and purple aura, huge. It's amazing, so beautiful.
Well, that's part of the class, Satsuko.
Wow.
You see light, colors, auras, it's just energy.
Right.
It's again, the miracle of life is the energy that surrounds human beings. And when we open, it becomes white light, yellow light. If we're closed, it's gray light, it's dark light, It depends upon how open people are inside. I say this class should be about love. It should be about joy in the heart. It should be about the reason we're born here is that God is love, and we've come here to learn that. We have come to this planet to learn, through all the suffering, all the difficulty, all the pain, we come to learn that God is love. And when we finally learn it, and not only learn it, but live with it, and where it becomes living experience, the world around us changes, everything changes. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
I have a question, Stuart.
Yes.
I literally sense that I could see you get out of your own way, so to speak. Those are your words. Could you just speak to getting out of my own way, or maybe something of how you really get out of your own way?
Well, Wendy, I've spent 30 years learning how to do that. When I was younger, I was really in my own way, and I was the only thing in my own way. But it took years of inner work. It took years of learning how to transform my anxiety, my pain, my emotions into energy that connected me with God. It took years of training with Rudi to learn how to do that. And then it just becomes an automatic thing. You sit down and you understand that in order for this class to work, I can't do it. That's one of the problems with many teachers and gurus. They do it. And it doesn't work as profoundly as it can work as if a person does it through a state of surrender. That takes training, it takes time, it takes learning to again come out of that little cubby hole we live in ourselves and open to the total experience of what our life is, so that we can get stronger inside and we can learn how to let go, not to hold on to everything. And it takes time to do that. You have to have a lot of patience. I really mean it. Took me a lot of time. And honestly, for me to be sitting, when I think back what I was like when I met Rudi, the condition I was in as a person. And for me to be sitting here doing this and talking like this and letting this spirit flow through me and hopefully nurturing all of you. I mean, to me, it's just a living miracle. When I remember what I was like. I mean, I was a drugged out kid who, 3 weeks before I met him, I was in a jail in Spain, and he took me in and he trained me, and, it took years just to get past that, to rebuild myself from all the drugs I had taken when I was a kid. But it was also commitment that enabled it to happen. You understand, it was going to, no matter how difficult it was going to classes, it was learning, it was overcoming me. I mean, I remember Rudi once told me, I'll never take another student like you. Told me this. So I laughed. I said, well, I made the cut. Thank God for that. But it was that work, the commitment, the knowing that I couldn't go away, no matter how difficult it got. And it really got difficult sometimes. Knowing I couldn't go away, I couldn't run away because there was nowhere to go. Nowhere that could have provided me the kind of training he provided me. And to learn, how to get past me. Because I realized even early on, I was the problem. And I had to get past me in order to get to God. And when it started happening, it was like a miracle. I mean, it was like I was living with a different person. But it's training, it's time, it's patience, it's doing the work, it's overcoming all the obstacles, and there'll be many, I promise you. I mean, look, I was a gifted kid. I knew I wanted a spiritual life from the time I was 16. I almost made myself crazy looking for it until I met Rudi. But it was, time and work and years of work, taking huge situations upon myself. Running ashrams in Denton, Texas for 9 years, the last place in the world I wanted to live. And all those things that are there, I built all those things because I couldn't stand the fact that I could become like everyone else in the town. I really mean it. It's the reason that house, the restaurant we had, the bakery, the candy, the idea of becoming, that was, I didn't want to, I couldn't live that way. So all this stuff manifested. Took 9 years to do all that. And then I realized I can't do anything else. I have to leave. I have to go to New York and take another test upon myself. And it was a much bigger test, So what I'm saying is we run into these obstacles. We run into these things and we have to really commit ourselves because, trying to get spiritual enlightenment is the single most difficult thing a human being can attain on this planet. But it's a combination of will to do it and the need to do it. And from there comes the strength to do it. The inner strength, not ego strength, but inner strength. The strength of surrender, of being able to let go. I mean, even a great saint, if they want to be enlightened, they've got to surrender their sainthood. You've got to surrender everything. Everything has to go. And then there's nothing, and when there's just God, living experience of God every day of our lives. In the smallest things, the smallest things and the biggest things. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
I have a question.
Yes?
Stuart, my question is, what is your perception of what happened?
Who's asking the question?
Huh?
Who's asking the question? I
It's
have
Emma.
Emma. Okay, you're not on my screen here, Emma. So go ahead.
What happens to us when we die?
I'll tell you something. Don't worry about it. Just live. Live to the fullest of your life, the fullest of your capacity. You know, find God in your life, become a happy person, and you'll never worry about it. Because frankly, there is no death when you do that. There's just eternity, there's spirit, and you know, the problem isn't dying, the problem is living. And once we stop being afraid of living, there'll never be even a thought of death. We just, you know, it's just infinite energy. We go to new planes of consciousness, the soul. You know, we finally worked out the bullshit on the earth. So there's another plane we have to work out, you know, somewhere else we have to go to learn things that the universe wants us to learn, you know. So don't worry about just live your life to the fullest. And by that, I don't mean, you know, you're going to go and you're going to go out and wine and dine yourself every night. That's not, just open your heart. Find love inside yourself, find gratitude and live that way and share it with people around you, you know, with the small and the big. So the problem isn't dying, the problem is learning how to live fully, completely, eating from every dish in the smorgasbord, life's smorgasbord. And that's a quote from my teacher, not from me. They eat from every dish on the table. So there's nothing here to come back for. That's what he said.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome, dear. It's good to see you. I thought you were coming to class at 1 o'clock in the morning. Bless you, dear. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, well, anyway, there'll be a meditation tomorrow evening at same time, 7:30. God bless you all. Thank you. And as I say, you know, look, you ask questions, look what comes. Before I sat down, I had no plans on talking like this tonight. In fact, I was a little bit tired. And look what comes out. And God bless you all, because I have to listen also. And it teaches me as well as hopefully all of you. So there'll be class tomorrow evening, and hopefully I'll see you all then. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Stuart.
Stuart.
Stuart,
you.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.